Hey everyone, and welcome to Bright and Early, the podcast for people building early stage startups. I'm your host, Brian Ray. I talk to entrepreneurs, product people, designers, and marketing pros to learn what works, what doesn't, and why, giving you at least one thing to apply to your business first thing tomorrow. My guest today is Shoaf. Schöneck is the COO and co-founder of 1 Second Every Day, a mobile app that lets you record 1 second every day and then edits those seconds together to create a single spellbinding movie of your life. They are a member of IndieVC's V3 cohort, were recently selected by Apple as a Best of 2019 app. Schöneck, welcome to Bright and Early.
Hi, Brad. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Completely my pleasure. I've been following like IndieVC and Earnest and Tiny Seed and all those folks. And when I saw that Indie had invested in you, I was like, I know that app. I love that app. My wife is a big fan, and I love seeing the videos that it spits out. It's just it's a delightful application to have on your phone. And
right, it's so fascinating, like seeing as people are using the product, it evolve over time. Right. So as they start with the initial day or two, it might just be a couple of photos, to be honest. Like we take so many photos for Instagram. We love Instagram. But then by the end of that first month, the second month, it's these moments of life, right? They bring your video into it. You have sound, laughter of your child. It's really cool. I nerd out on this stuff. I mean, it's my product, but I just love it.
What was the original inspiration for the thing? How did it come about?
Right. So the other founder is Cesar Koriyama, phenomenal guy. He's the CEO. Him and I were kind of coming up to our 30s. He was going to hit it 31st. I won't say how old he is, but he was going to hit that big 3-0. And him and I were hanging out in New York, and we were like, what did we do in our 20s? Mm-hmm. Like we both were in advertising, doing fine, doing the career ladder climb, really hustling and working our butts off. And we were kind of looking at like, I think there were some bars. I think I went to Europe at some point in time, but we had no idea really what was the life. And Cesar and I both, I think a lot of people do, we're overstimulated. So we have limited memory, to be perfectly honest, not the best memory out there. So Cesar being the visionary that he was, and he had been making some music videos for a couple of bands. He was like, you know what? I got an idea, man. My 30th year, I'm going to start when I'm 29, but I'm aiming for 30. I'm going to record with my big honking camera, my Canon camera. I'm going to record all these moments in HD, beautiful. And then I'm going to edit in Final Cut Pro. And I was like, all right, that sounds crazy. Good luck. Love it. I'll help you out where I can, buddy. And that was sort of the start, was just a way to reflect. I mean, it was just going to be a project. Cesar will say this also. It just started just like as a fun little project. But in the end, there was so much value in it. We had the TED Talk, then we did the Kickstarter, and we were starting to get really good buzz within the community. People were like, oh my God, I love this. I have an iPhone 3G. Like I now have this amazing high quality camera in my pocket. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I want to reflect on life too. I'm getting ready to get married, or I just moved to a new city, or we just had our second child. Hey, can I be a part of this too? And then we quickly realized that our art school education maybe didn't work too good with starting a technology company, to be honest. But we figured it out. We're doing great. But
Well, so tell me more about that, the TED Talk and the Kickstarter thing. I don't know this part of your story.
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. So when Cesar, around 29, we both decided to quit our jobs. I was following in Cesar's footsteps. He was definitely had that idea. So we quit our advertising jobs. We saved a bunch of money. We were basically wandering around the country for, 9 months. So just in Cesar's car, hitting the road. We had no idea what we were doing. We were just kind of wandering this beautiful country, and we made our way up into Canada. And during that road trip, Cesar had applied to TED. They finally opened submissions for the first time ever. Applied to TED with this crazy 1 second every day of my life, 30-year-old man thing. They loved him, loved Cesar, loved the idea. Halfway through the car ride, we're sitting at a gas station in Missouri, I think. He gets a phone call from TED. He's sitting down on the sidewalk. I'm sitting in the car. We're both kind of sweating because we knew the call was coming. And he was just like, dude, they accepted me.
Get out.
I'm doing TED, man. I'm doing TED. I was like, well, I'm glad you're doing TED and not me. Because I would fumble and
vomit.
Oh my God. Yeah, brutal. Anyways, so got back, did the TED. That was, I think mid-September. At TED, I mean, this is TED, dude. This is like the heaviest of heavy hitters.
Yeah.
The one, Al Gore, like big, like really important people are there. Mm-hmm. And he's, people are coming up to him like, oh my God, loved your TED talk. I want to do it. How can I do this?
Okay.
And he was like, well, learn Final Cut Pro. Step one. But they were like, no, this could be a thing, man. You really should look into this. Like, we really like this. We think this could be a good idea. Mm-hmm. So Caesar had a little bit of savings, but not enough to pay an iOS engineer. I mean, yeah, that was back.
What year was this?
This was back in 2012.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's still in the early days, but I mean, there weren't that many iOS engineers in New York. Like, and the ones that were there, they were charging.
Still spendy. Yeah. Expensive.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we came to the realization that, there's this Kickstarter thing. We kind of heard a little bit about it. It was the golden age of Kickstarter where everything was super hardcore and really like validated. So what the heck? Let's give it a shot. Let's throw it up on Kickstarter. Found a dev shop that was willing to build the prototype for us, which was insane.
Nice.
But they loved C's. They loved the idea. They believed in us. And we threw it up on Kickstarter 30 days. Within 30 days, we had massive success. We got 11,000 backers, which gets us our core first customers. I mean,
easily.
Right. It's like, that's the hardest thing. A lot of times when you start a company and idea is getting those initial customers. So not only did we get our initial good base of customers, but we also raised around $60,000, which gave us enough to fund the beginning of development.
Fund the project. Yep. Nice. And it's been a story from there.
I mean, we're getting ready to come up on our 7-year anniversary. The app went live January 9th, 2013.
Okay.
So almost 7 years now going.
Well, and congratulations. You were featured by Apple in 2019.
Oh man. That huge. Yeah. Like we doubled in size this year, a lot in part thanks to NDVC. So the team had been working super hard, and it's a great experience, right? You join a company, you're taking a risk. It's a remote company. You're trying to figure out, and then boom, within 90 days, Apple's kind of putting you up on the pedestal. And me and Caesar were like, all right, employee retention, it's going to be high. Yes,
right.
We got this. But it was really cool. It was the first Apple event like that, where they we flew into New York, met with Phil Schaefer. Just really, really pretty. It's a surreal experience, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, congrats. It's success well earned. So you're head of operation or chief of operations. Mm-hmm. I would love to talk about remote work. Your experience. Mm-hmm. You're in Austin, so I can say y'all's experience with remote work, the challenges that you've faced and overcome, the challenges that you're still facing. So can we just kind of start first of all with an understanding of your team? How many folks do you have on board? Is there an HQ? Are you all 100% distributed? What's the team structure?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. It's so important because some folks will be like, oh, we're remote. It's 2 people. It's like, okay, you are remote, but it's a little different. Not the same in my opinion. So we're a team of 20. So we're still small, definitely still small. We're across 9 countries. And spanning everywhere from Manila in the Philippines all the way to Victoria, BC, and Canada. So we have a pretty good coverage of the world. There is no main headquarters. We were very for IRS purposes, we do have a mailing office. We have a HQ. Mm-hmm. But I live in Austin, Texas. Caesar spends his time between LA and New York. Our CTO is up in Canada. Okay. So the figureheads of the company, if you will, are spread across the board. So we are remote first from day one.
Okay. So, and what, and that was established like obviously from the beginning, or were you and Caesar in the same, were y'all in the same city for the first few years, or what was that like?
Yeah. So I guess that was our first lesson. If we're taking this to the case of like, all right, Schöneck, what did you learn over the years? Mistakes.
Yep.
So to start right off the bat, Caesar and I knew each other from Pratt Institute in Brooklyn, New York, an art school. So we did the whole New York career thing, whatnot. But when I joined 1 Second Every Day, we had kind of like, I guess we'll do it out of Brooklyn. And we're like, okay, I guess step one, we need to start to hire people, need to get an office space, blah, 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 blah. Okay. We quickly learned that square footage in New York is a very competitive market. There's a lot of good opportunities, but this was before WeWork. So the co-working was even something kind of new. There was two spots that were doing co-working, and they would close the office at 5 p.m. And Caesar and I are most productive after 5 p.m. And for myself, I'm an early morning guy, so before 9 a.m. So we became very aware. It's like, okay, number one, we'll get priced out. We started to interview for some engineers in New York and realized that we couldn't go toe-to-toe with Google, who was just opening up there. We couldn't go toe-to-toe with Goldman Sachs. So there were some heavy hitters that are throwing around a lot of money, not dissimilar to Silicon Valley, in my opinion. And what really the spark that made us decide to go remote is we saw that Mashable just did a round of layoffs. They had finished their, Series E. And one of the requirements of the lead investor was you have to close your entire R&D team, which means all mobile development. Hallelujah. That meant that 8 super talented guys were on the market within 24 hours. So I was like Johnny on the spot. I was hitting up everyone on Twitter that I could get my hands on, started interviewing the guys. And within, we hired a guy before we'd even met him. Like, it was really risky, super scary. Looking back on it, kind of hilarious that the guy believed in us. And then we took the chance, but he's our CTO to this day, Sammy Samhuri. Love the guy to death. Okay. I love Canadians.
Was he in Canada at the time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was kind of like our first foray into hiring internationally, like doing video interviews, how to, especially with engineers, how do you find out the talent, doing code review, et cetera, et cetera. So once we had hired Sammy and we were now a international company, so to speak, I was like, okay, I raised my hand. I was like, "C's buddy, I love you, but I really need to get out of Brooklyn. I'm dying here, man. Like, I did the city thing in my 20s. Is it cool if I leave?" And he's like, "Heck yeah, buddy. Like, go wherever you're comfortable, man. Like, we're rock solid now." So anyways, that was our first lesson, was really quickly realizing we couldn't afford local office space. We would have to take VC money super early on, to be honest, in my opinion. In
order to have been able to compete on those levels. Yeah. Well, so those are the two benefits that people talk about, all that, like, well documented. You don't have to spend money on real estate, and you can hire the most talented people anywhere. What about some of the challenges that teams often face? What are some of the challenges that y'all have faced, and how have you overcome them?
Yeah. So there's two big challenges that have kind of hit us in the past, I would say, year and a half. And I do think we have addressed both of them, but we're still learning, of course. Like, challenges will continue to come, and we can get better and better at it. The first one was around alignment. So alignment of company value. So what had happened is that, we were right around 10 people. We had a pretty good diverse group of folks. We had some 1 or 2 people in Europe. We had someone in Mexico, and it was great. We were rocking and rolling. But what had happened is that when it was no longer me, Caesar, and the core group of 3 or 4 people who were always aligned because we just had known each other for so long. Now what was happening is that we bring someone on, and there was assumptions that are being made. Things weren't well documented. We didn't have any company values. So we realized that was causing a lot of friction and frustration within the team. Where it's like, no, we talked about this. It's like, well, we didn't actually talk about that with Bob. Bob wasn't in that conversation because Bob wasn't with us when we had that conversation.
Right.
So that simple thing of alignment, which sounds so crazy, but in a remote environment, we're not all getting together for lunch. We're not walking up the elevator together. We're not sitting around the office. So there's these side conversations that happen. Communication is paramount. So the way we address that alignment communication issue, which happened about 16 months ago, I would say, was number one, Caesar and I sat down with Sammy, our CTO, and we defined what are our company values. What are those things that we believe in? Like, it's one thing to write them down, but you really got to believe in them.
Yeah.
They got to be in your bones. You can't just say, we believe in customers are great and always first.
Yeah.
Nah, buddy. Like, it's got to be, like, for us, it's people come first. So it's not just about our customers, but we really do. Sounds super cheesy, I know. It is like a family within us. So if someone's having a hard day, like I have flown people across the country to be with someone who's having some depression issues, right? Like, and that's stuff. I know that's an expense that I'm taking on as a company guy. But to me, it's worthwhile to send them to be with them because people come first within our company. That's our most valuable asset, in my opinion, is our workforce. And you mentioned, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, I look back on my father's generation where it's like you work in a factory, you put in your 30, 40 years, but you're really a cog in a wheel. You were a numbers man. And then it was kind of expected that I would become a middle management guy by my family. And it's like, they don't really care about me. Like
right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. The second thing was like, after we figured out the alignment with communication values, like that was super, 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 super helpful. Mm-hmm. The other one that we've run into, which it sounds super obvious saying this, but I don't think enough people talk about it, is cultural differences. So the beauty of remote, right, is like I can hire an incredibly diverse workforce.
Yeah.
Maybe not as diverse if I had unlimited funds in New York, but pretty darn diverse in my opinion.
Right.
But with that diversity comes not only different languages, but there comes different assumptions, different senses of humor. And when we're all communicating through Slack, tone can be lost.
Hey, listeners. We'll get back to the interview in just a second, but this is a great time to pause and let you know that Bright and Early is brought to you by Transistor.fm. Transistor offers you professional podcast hosting and analytics. They host this very podcast, and listen, y'all, it could not be any easier. Product is ridiculously easy to use. If you've got a question, Justin and John, the guys behind the software, are super responsive. I've needed to reach out a time or two for some help. They were all over it. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast for your business, just pop on over to Transistor.fm and let them know that Brian sent you. So how do you all set expectations? How do you document those expectations? Get agreement from and input from everyone? I can imagine. Yeah. Well, yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the way that I've decided to address this for now. We'll see how scalable this is. But every person we bring on, of course, I did this with the entire team across the board, but the system in place now is that every person that gets brought on, I sit down with them for an hour and a half and I talk through our handbook. I don't send them a link and then tell me, hey, read the thing when you have a chance. Let me know if you have any questions. No. No, thank you. We get on a Zoom call and I go line by line. Now, it's not boring and depressing as that sounds. I do make it somewhat enjoyable, but it ensures that if there's any questions that come up, boom, I ask real time, baby. Let's talk it out. And also helps me refine, right? It's like an ongoing retrospective. I'm constantly getting better at that onboarding and tweaking our handbook and what are the things that are important to us. So within that handbook, there are set rules and really like do's and don'ts. Which, you and I were having this great conversation over Zoom as an example, but for some folks, they're uncomfortable being on video. Maybe at their previous work environment, the company policy was, hey, don't ever turn on the video. Or maybe they've been treated as more, I don't know a better term, but more as just doers. Like, I don't want your opinion. You sit in on this call and you don't say anything. Right. That's not how we work at 1 Second Every Day. I want your opinion. I want you to argue against me. I want you to present a different idea than me. And I want to see your beautiful face. I want to see when you laugh, man. I want to know, like, if I'm boring you, I want to be able to see that and make adjustments. So there's these little nuances. The big thing around tone and intention is not assuming anything. So there's a few rules we've laid out that I think has really helped us out a lot. One is, if you find yourself in a Slack thread, which happens to all of us, right? You're going deep in a thread. There's 50, 100, 200 back and forth, trying to clarify, what do you mean when you say blue button? What do you mean when you say, hey, this swipes here? You know what? If it takes more than 5 or 10 back and forth, hop on a Zoom. Take 10 seconds, take 20 seconds, just talk it out real quick. Yeah. And that's been so helpful for the team. So helpful. There's little things.
Where do y'all land around the whole conversation of, real time chat has its value, et cetera, but gosh, like when everybody's expected to respond so quickly, it's hurting people. So let's go slow communication, asynchronous over email. Let's prefer that. Where do y'all stand on that whole approach?
So we want to move in the direction of asynchronous communication. We don't have hard office hours.
Right.
Not at all.
Okay.
highly recommend a noon to 3 p.m. New York overlap.
Okay.
Which, again, not required, because we do have some folks that, they have kid. Manila's a perfect example, right? We've got a guy, he works third shift, just had a second kid. Maybe we shouldn't hold him super hard and fast to that specific block of time. But by not having hard office hours, asynchronous is a little bit more flexible. People can chime in when they want to chime in. To be honest, we're a consumer software company. There are very few things where the world is on fire, in my opinion. So when we kind of make that clear within the team, it's like, we want to hear your feedback. We want your opinion. As long as you have visibility, and we ensure that there's a visibility within the team. So you had a chance to see it. You had an opportunity to chime in and discuss it, but a decision was made within this period of time. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. I guess when you say you're a consumer app, nothing's on fire. Do you mean as opposed to like a B2B accounting software where if your client's payments are down, hey, everybody get on this right now. We need you to be accessible.
Yeah. So, right. It's similar to that sense, or the analogy I always kind of take to is like lives are not at risk.
Yep.
Right. It would be one thing if we operated an emergency room.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we need to have synchronous. We need to be all Johnny on the spot. Okay. You need to be here exactly 8:00, not 8:01. Because I need help in the ER room. Mm-hmm. It's not really the case for us. And having that flexibility, we've actually seen folks, again, pick your hours, but we've seen folks who work longer hours just because there is that flexibility. So they can quickly go be with their child for an hour and then come back. So in aggregate, they're probably spending more than 40 hours working for us, but it's not mandated by the company. It's so fascinating, that little difference of not putting the hard and fast hours or saying, hey, we need to have 20 meetings throughout the week. Mm-hmm. So we try to make sure that people are aware of conversations that are happening, when meetings are happening, but really opt in.
Okay. Yes.
Don't have to attend.
Yep. And so the trade-off of that, 1 second every day leadership does not expect everyone to be on call at every second, responding to every message. The trade-off is that, so from time to time, we will request input. There will be a period of time we may not wait to hear every single voice, and a decision will be made and moved forward. And that's the balance there. Is that kind of the agreement and understanding among the team?
Right. I mean, because we want to move more toward asynchronous communication, I think there's some systems that we'll need to put in place. For now, a lot of this happens on Confluent, Slack, kind of the usual systems.
Yep.
And that's working pretty good. But I do think that as we grow the team, there will be need, not so much project managers, but maybe some sort of DRI, a directly responsible individual that kind of holds the baton. And at least they are not the gatekeeper, but they're the point person. They're the person at any point in time. If it's like, hey, I missed that meeting. I wasn't really able to keep up a track on that project. How's that looking? Like, do you need help? Can I jump in and help out real quick? As opposed to being right now, it's a little bit more of a flatter organization. I do think there might come a point in time where we need to have a little more leads.
Yeah. So we've been talking about communication. That is commonly like one of the top, if not always, like the top issue that teams talk about. Another common one is loneliness and isolation. You even mentioned depression earlier. How have you guys had to address that, and what's it been like for your team?
Yeah, it's so tough. It's incredibly complicated when you have an international team. So if I was running a company in Seattle and I hired only Americans and we had a healthcare system that was in America, there's a lot more easy to address that. There are a lot of third-party services that are available that could, provide care, mental health care, whatever the case may be for folks in Seattle. But when you have an international workforce, of course, you don't want to treat some as second class. You want everyone to have availability of the same benefits and care and love across the board.
Right.
That's where it gets hairy, providing solutions. So we've had to put a pin in that for now. We've tried to figure out, it's like, okay. And we kind of landed on just throwing money at the problem, which I don't agree with. So where we've landed for the most part to try to address specifically that loneliness factor is to allow people to, of course, if they want to be in a co-working environment, we'll provide a stipend for them. Okay. That's kind of easy piece. That's not some crazy solution. Automatic does it, Buffer does it. A lot of them have co-working stipends. What we've kind of realized actually is that most, at least with our small team, most workers, they'll try the co-working, but they find it too distracting.
Yeah.
So they'll leave co-working and they'll prefer just to go to the coffee shop. So from what we can tell, it's that being close to other human elements, but maybe not a work environment where there's other calls going on and there's business meetings and there's kind of that distraction. So allowing that flexibility in work environments helped out a little bit. The one thing that doesn't address is when they're at home and they're just sort of in a small town or they have seasonal depression. That's the rough thing. That's in my opinion, the nut to crack. Because in an office environment, right, 9 to 5, you're in the office environment. You've got your coworkers, like whether you like it or don't, you're surrounded with other people. Yeah. So it helps a little bit with that seasonal depression. But when you're even in a coffee shop, that's not the same.
Right.
I'll be honest, that is one area that we're super mindful of is the mental health. So where we've landed for now is we've kind of had a lot of conversations, open conversations between me as a founder, Caesar as a founder, talking to the team like, hey, we're seeing a psychiatrist. I'm seeing a psychiatrist. It's really helping me out. So not dictating to the team, but again, visibility, just transparency. Yeah. Hey, you know what? I get a little bummed sometimes. This is helping me.
Right. And taking the stigma away and
because
okay for everybody. Yeah.
Especially in America, man, there's this really kind of funk around mental health. We've seen it mostly with men within the company, but I think it's across the board. I don't think it's a race thing, a gender thing, a socioeconomical thing. I just think culturally, like for better or worse, we kind of just bottle that up.
Yeah.
It's been tough. That's the one thing that I think more and more companies are going to be talking a lot about in 2020, especially remote companies, is how do you handle that? Our retreats, we do semi-annual retreats, and those help. Those do help.
So tell me a little bit about that. You guys, I think you went to Cancun. Did I see this on Twitter? Okay. Okay. So talk a little bit about the structure of those retreats. Semi-annual, is that formal? How do you decide where to go? What's the agenda, etc.?
Right. So retreats have definitely been evolving throughout the years. I think our first one was actually in Austin, Texas. Ironically enough. Back in 2015. So where we've landed now when it comes to the structure of those semi-annual retreats is there is a retreat committee within the company. So they'll reach out with RPFs to resorts, hotels, et cetera, to try to get some cost estimates. We do solicit feedback within the company, like, hey, where would you like to go? Or did you go to Croatia? Was that kind of cool? Oh, wow, you've been to South Africa. What was that like? So luckily, we have a pretty diverse workforce across the world. So we're kind of able to pull a little bit of resources on that one. Nice. We alternate our semi-annual retreats. One is families are allowed, plus ones are allowed. And the other is, team only. Okay?
Yeah. Okay.
So the way that kind of works, our retreats are roughly 10 days.
Wow.
So, which is
okay.
Yeah.
That's
people
lengthy.
Yeah, I've had a couple of founders that are just like, whoa, oh my God, how do you pull that off? So our thinking with that, we did start with smaller. We started with around 5 days, and then we tried 7, and we've kind of landed with around 10. So It's only 1 work week, and it's 4 work days within that week, but we provide buffers on the front and the back of that for people to travel.
Okay. Because people are coming from many different places, and
Right. And the expectation is that on that Monday, 9 a.m., you're hitting the ground running. There's no lag. There's no, my luggage didn't arrive, or, I need to get these clothes cleaned or whatever. I'm trying to get set up at the hotel. No. Productivity from day one, crack in the morning. You're ready. You're energized. You are excited to be there.
Yeah.
So we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday work, and it's very structured with the meetings. But a 9 to 5 kind of work environment. We do catered dinners and all that kind of fun stuff. Thursday is activities. So we will book excursions, crazy wild trips, tours, wine tastings, all that fun stuff. Opt in. Don't want to drink. Totally cool. No judgment. And then Friday, strong recap. So one thing that we tested out in Cancun, that this is a total ripoff from like Help Scout and Buffer. But on that last Friday, we do a support session. So the entire team gets together and for 4 hours sits down with the support team and works through a bunch of issues.
Cool.
Because we'll close our support down for that week. We'll message to our customers, hey, our support team is just as valuable to us as our engineers, as our product designers. I don't want them stressing throughout the day about tickets piling up and them having to answer stuff. I don't think that's fair. They're a valuable member of the team. So we shut down support, and then that last Friday, we try to make their lives easier for the following Monday and get
everybody
the inbox.
Jumps on it. And that's really smart. That's really cool. Well, so what's the what's the primary goal of those 3 days of productivity? Are you bringing some third party in to facilitate something, or is it led by the leadership team? Like, what are you doing when you're working in person together?
Yeah. So for the most part, it's sharing of knowledge.
Okay.
So it's getting all the engineering team together, and we'll have a couple of folks like take leads. So like, hey, this is how I'm using this library, or here's a project that I've worked on, or hey, here's what the services side did the past 3 months. And kind of getting everyone like there, of course, like people are working on projects together, but it's super helpful. Surprisingly, they really enjoy just kind of getting in a room and working together, even having a little hack session. Mm-hmm. The specifics to those meetings are decided by the team and them submitting. So before we even have a retreat, about 30 days out, we'll start getting leads, managers to bubble up issues, and we'll allow people to submit. Even if it's not a meeting that I want to run, I can still submit an idea, be like, hey, you know what? I would love Stephanie to walk me through marketing. I think that would be really cool.
Yep.
So that's super helpful. The first day usually is tied to leadership. So that's Caesar, me, maybe Sammy, really going through like, hey, trying to realign, make sure everything's super tight. This is what's going on. Here's our goal for the next three months, whatever the case may be. Because usually with the retreats, we have a bunch of new hires.
Okay.
Timings just always kind of work that way.
Okay.
So that works out really good for us. We have a lot of new things in Cancun. Cancun was our first time bringing in an outside coach.
Okay.
Which was awesome.
Okay.
Oh man, we should have been doing that years ago. So the lady we brought in is Claire Liu from Know Your Team. You might have heard her.
Totally. Yeah. Know her. Yep.
Yeah. She's awesome. So she came in and we had her just specifically focus on feedback. Goes kind of going to the alignment and communication. Say, okay, let's talk about feedback. How do managers give feedback? How do direct reports take feedback? What does that look like within a remote company? Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of hands-on kind of workshop sessions, like testing it out, feeling it out. And that worked out great. The team loved that.
Nice.
Loved it. Yeah.
That's cool. Are you starting to scout your next one or? Yeah,
that started, almost like the week after Cancun.
Well, because is it? How often do you do them? Twice a year, 3 times a year? What was the?
We have 2 main retreats every year.
Okay.
Right. So this was mid-October. The next one will be the end of March.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
What are just real tactically like? What are the tools, the software tools that 1 Second Every Day uses and loves to run your remote first company?
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. It's nothing too crazy. Zoom and Slack are, of course, the basics. Everyone's got those bad boys checked out. Notion has been super helpful. We should have done that years ago, something like that. And full credit to Caesar. He harped on me for years and years to get a company wiki going, and I just didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand what a company wiki is. Mm-hmm. But once I got everything kind of rocking and rolling on Notion, I was like, this shared knowledge base is golden.
Yeah.
Because then at any point in time, someone can jump in there and be like, what was Schöneck talking about? He said a thing and there was something. Yeah.
What is it about Notion that you find so valuable? Wikis aren't new. So what is it that Notion does so well in that documentation, like company wiki thing for remote teams that makes it so valuable?
So for us, it was super easy to get it up and running. The widgets they kind of have set up, the templates they have already kind of ready to rock and roll. That worked out really good. And being able to easily get everyone up and going and linking to it was quite nice. There's also a component of commenting, but to be honest, we don't use commenting too much. We did initially, but it got super noisy with people going in and commenting here, commenting there, and there. But I guess the way we use Notion could work with other tools. But for us, the ease of use was great. And we it's because of all those widgets and different customizations, we can also use it as to-do lists. So I use it as a to-do list with one of my teams. So that's where we keep everything. But another team might use Trello, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But having that flexibility within Notion has been really valuable for us.
Was there an example of a company wiki that you all based yours off of that might be helpful to link people to, or did you all just kind of build it as you go? And
yeah, I mean, we've always been inspired. Caesar and myself have always been inspired by the work that Joel and Leo had done with Buffer.
Yep.
So that's I'm more calling out their blog, but I do think because of the way their transparency is, that's pretty much like their company wiki. Yeah. It's insane true. What those guys are doing with transparency. But the point being is that was that helped us lay down some of the groundwork, and their company values are really well done and kind of presented. So that definitely was inspiration for me when I was building that out.
Cool. Joel's going to be on this show at the end of January, so I'll ask him about it then.
Yeah, Joel, we were lucky. We were able to grab Joel as one of our investors.
Oh, nice.
Small angel. Yeah, big fan of Joel.
Yeah, right on. Let's see. Is there anything else just remote work wise, like in the area I haven't asked you about that you want to share or talk about?
There was one tool that is worthwhile bringing up, just because it's really amazing how it works. But Figma, have you heard of the design tool?
Yes,
Figma?
Definitely. So I'm still using Sketch, but I feel like more and more people are moving over to Figma. So
we had used Sketch for about a year or so, and Sketch is great. Not knocking Sketch, but specifically to remote work, Figma is amazing for us because we can share that artboard, that design environment. So it is amazing for brainstorming ideas. So our CPO, Jay, be like, all right, guys, I'm working on blah, 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 new onboarding. He'll send us a link. We can all jump on there and we can see each other's cursors. We can comment. He can click and drag. Our product designer will be in there as we're talking. She can start iterating on designs. For a remote company, that's, oh my gosh, that's huge.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Okay. I mean, like, as I said, I haven't used it yet, but the way that you described that, the major thing that I miss in being in an office is, hey, I've got this thing that I'm brainstorming on. I just need 15 minutes in front of a whiteboard with you guys. Can we? And it sounds like you're describing
that's
that situation.
Agree. Like if mental health is like one pillar of concern in the remote world, I think proper whiteboarding is another. Like how do you brainstorm?
Yeah.
We started something recently. I brought it into the company, which we just kicked it off in Cancun, and that's doing levels. So when we're conversing, whether it's on a Zoom call, on Slack, or writing something on Confluence, we have 4 levels. I guess, 4 technically. So level 3 is just, hey man, exactly what you're saying. Pie in the sky. I got a crazy level 3 idea. What if we opened up an office on Mars? Let's talk it out, right? Then our level 2 beneath that is like, hey, I'm thinking of expanding C into Russia. I'm not quite sure what that looks like. Can I get a couple of people to help me out with this and just talk it through? I need someone to bounce ideas off of. So the difference there is that it's a little more solidified and it's clear that an action will need to be taken. Level 2, some sort of action will be taken. Maybe not immediately, but an action needs to be taken.
Yes.
Level 1, we're drilling down a little bit more. It's like, hey, Brian, we really got to get that marketing campaign up and going by tomorrow. Do you want to talk it out? So there's a deadline. I'm saying that it's Brian and me are going to talk it out. The task has almost been assigned. And then level 0 is just hard and fast. We never use level 0, but it's there just in case. It's like, hey man, no discussion. We got to crush this. I need this done. I'm juggling 100 things. I'm stressing out. I need you to own this.
Okay. That's really, it's really helpful. I think the thing that I continue to pick up on, the more and more I talk to people about this, is one great thing that remote work forces companies to do is to just be very clear, to be very good at communication. And you hear this also too, like, I mean, between 2 equally qualified employees, if you're hiring remote, hire the better writer. And I keep hearing you, like, you're hitting on it. Hear multiple people hitting on it. It's fascinating.
So the one thing I agree wholehearted with you when it comes to, really, gosh, it's distilling an idea right to that core nugget. It's so hard. Like I that's my biggest fear is that, like, I will never be able to level up. Like I'm trying so hard to get better at my communication.
Schöneck, where can listeners find and follow you online?
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Schöneck, really Schoneck. figure I might want to spell that bad boy out. And hey, if you ever have any questions about Want to See or about remote or operations, shoot me an email, Schöneck at onesecondeveryday.com. Happy to help.
My guest today has been Schöneck Shoaf. Schöneck, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's do some closing thoughts for this episode. Something I expect to be a recurring pattern throughout this whole series is the importance of documentation, and not just for the practical things of where to find this particular document or how to request paid time off or that sort of thing, but the more intangible things around company values, getting alignment on those things, how we communicate with one another, what are the expectations, and service level agreements, I think is one way to put that. I think that's going to be definitely a recurring theme there, and it's interesting to hear how they're doing that at 1 second every day, and how they've gone on to flesh that out with their employee handbook and with their onboarding documents and things like that in Notion. And so I reached out to Schöneck, after we had recorded this, and said, "Hey, is there any chance you could shoot me a copy of that? Either is there a public version that y'all have available, or could you just send me an outline and I'll white label it?" And he did. He sent me a shareable version of their employee handbook, and so check the show notes, and I will make that available, as well as some onboarding documents that they've got. And I guess a little more on that is it's not as if those things are not already important in traditional co-located offices and companies. Like, we've known this for a really long time, just that it's all the more important for remote teams, where all of the sort of passive benefits of just being social creatures who show up to the same place every single day, and just you get those things sort of accidentally and through serendipity over time. The importance of them when you're distributed is just all the more important. Which is also, I found it interesting that the employee handbook for 1 second every day is not something that gets shared with a new hire. And hey, be sure you read over this at some point in your first week or two, and hit us up if you've got any questions. It's a one-on-one with Schöneck in real time with the employee. I'm really curious how that strikes any of you. Is that something that you've experienced and seen some benefit from it? Is that something that you've tried and it's actually had some downsides? I'd be really curious to hear, because it just immediately strikes me as it's just completely obvious benefits, and and getting that feedback in real time in both directions. The employee being able to ask some questions, and then Schöneck being able to make modifications to it and tweak it and improve it, as opposed to it being this sort of concrete PDF that was created at some point in time and just continues to be distributed, and who knows how often employees look at it. I had some thoughts around, the part of the conversation about how they don't have hard set office hours, and how they're moving towards, more asynchronous communication. Obvious benefits of having no hard office hours. People get to kind of, adjust to the way that they want to be, or the way that works best for their schedule. Obvious benefits. Subscribe to this. Completely down with it. In listening back and in continuing to think through it, I think what it would be so important to establish is around the idea of having soft office hours. It's like it feels a little bit similar to having no vacation policy, and how for a while there, that's like pitched as a benefit. Or like a perk, we don't have a vacation policy, just don't abuse it. In reality, I do not like that policy. I think that it ends up, push back, argue with me on this if you want to. I think it ends up actually creating more guilt and more anxiety, especially among junior hires and new hires. As opposed, rather than just saying, you get 3 weeks, and when you've been here for 2 years, you get 4, and when you've been here for 8 years, you get 6. Whatever it is, just make the expectations very clear, and then there's no, like so and so's taking too much, or I'm not taking enough, like that kind of thing. I think that I do not like the no vacation policy, and I'm starting to wonder if I also dislike the soft hours policy. Surprisingly, I might end up disagreeing with myself on this in a matter of days, weeks, months, or years. But like, I don't know, just the sense of hey, get your job done, and you'll be judged from your output. I like that. We should not be measuring, employees' contributions by how many hours they're in their seat. Agreed. Given. Cool. But in terms of like how many hours are you available and when are you available, I wonder like how are y'all, how do people establish expectations and things so that you also don't have to be expected to be checking into, Slack or email every 2 hours around the clock. So I'm going to continue to work that one over in my head, and just thinking through how do we get the benefits of not having hard office hours without, absorbing into it and forgetting the lessons learned from the downsides of the no vacation policy. Okay. The whole situation around how they schedule their team retreats and team summits, I think is so great. That they shut down support for that week, and then everybody jumps in on Friday. What a practical way to address that problem, so that everyone on the team feels like they can completely check out of the day-to-day stuff and be fully present to the retreat. And like we all know, it's well established at this point, it's a really good thing for everybody in the company to do support from time to time. That's just well known. And so, man, what a great way to, sell your sawdust here, and get do something that's a win in both directions. So that's great. I think that's about it. Just a reminder to check the show notes on the for a link to their the employee handbook, and there on some onboarding documentation there. As always, I would love to hear what you all are thinking, what you're struggling with. Is there anything in here that helped you think through a problem that you're having, see a different side of it? You can find me on Twitter. I'm B-Ray, B-R-H-E-A. You can find the show notes online, brightenearlypodcast.com. And as always, thank you for listening. See you next week.